Have you ever had one of those moments as a mom where it feels like you are just glitching out for a minute? Like you're holding a baby who is crying, your kids are asking for mommy, they're pulling at your legs, you've got music playing on the speaker, the toys in the playroom are making noises, someone spilled their cereal again, you're trying to fry eggs but they're burning, and all of a sudden you just feel like you are going to actually explode. Welcome to a lot of motherhood, trying to stay calm in these moments when you are so overstimulated by everything that is going on around you at the same time. I recently heard a stat that apparently about 92% of moms report feeling overstimulated on a weekly basis, and I would like to say that that is probably more than 92%. There's probably some moms that were just too busy to take whatever report that was, because I think all of us at some point in our weeks can get to that place where it's like there is a lot of overstimulation that is happening in our houses. The truth is, when you've got young kids at your home, there are competing demands, and so much of parenting is keeping your own cool when everything else around you feels like it's out of control. If you are new here, my name is Beth. I am a mom to 3 kids, 3 and under, so my house can be incredibly overstimulating at times, but I will say there are a lot of things that I struggle with as a mom, but one of the things that is kind of like a strength area for me is remaining calm in the chaos of the season of life that I'm in right now. In my house, when there is a lot that is going on, I feel like I have a number of tools in my tool belt, and I've had friends and other people talk to me and ask me like, how are you staying cool when all of this is happening? Because I feel like I'm constantly losing my cool. And my hope is that in this video, I can share some of the things that help me and work for me to try and keep my cool in that chaos. The very first thing that I'll say on this is that you have to model the calm that you want to see in your home. So much of parenting is just example, example, example. And when you are bringing in a very reactive example to your kids and you're reacting to a lot of the chaos around you, it's not really setting the example that you want your kids to start mirroring and following. And this is not necessarily for those one-off moments where it just gets crazy and you raise your voice, although that is included in this. I think it's the everyday person that you bring into your home. And it goes back to this saying that I say all the time of we have to remember that we're the thermostat and not the thermometer in our homes. We actually get to set the atmosphere, not just react to what's happening in the house and in the people around us. And so when you wake up every day and you model the calm that you want to see, you model the volume that you want your kids to talk to you with, the type of conversation that you are using, being polite, being respectful, the way that we talk to our kids so often is what we're also going to hear back. And not just the conversation we have with them, but also the conversation that we have with other people. They're hearing all of that. And so much of parenting is this example that we set. And so in those moments where things are out of control, what I try to do is compensate by being the complete opposite of the crazy. I actually will, instead of raising my voice, just be like, okay, things are really intense in here right now. I'll cut the music, I'll turn off the sound coming from the toys, I'll bring the kids in, I'll say, we need to take a deep breath. There's too much going on right now. Things are a little bit out of control. Let's take a second here to calm and recenter. Sometimes just being that voice of reason and peace and calm is all that our kids need to kind of just be like, okay, to take a breath as well. I think it's important for your kids to be able to see you regulate your own nervous system around them, because that's how they regulate. It's this whole idea of co-regulation. Our kids, especially our young kids and our toddlers, are not going to be able to go into a room and just be able to do that on their own. They need to do that with you. And what a cool opportunity we have as moms when we're overstimulated to actually take that opportunity to do that and to model that in front of them. So model the calm that you want to see in your home. That is the biggest indication, I think, of the level of overstimulation that your home will reach, is what you're able to do in modeling day after day. The next thing that I will say also comes back to you as a parent. So that's my next point, is that you have to lead yourself first. It's really hard to lead your kids to a place that you want them to go, and also even just to a place of calm, if you are not leading yourself in that first. And to be able to model the way that you want your kids to be and to behave in your home, you can't just wake up every day and never do anything to pour back into your own cup or to invest in yourself as a person and expect to be ready and on it when you wake up in the morning, being able to model that calm. I think a lot of the time, motherhood, because it is so giving and so sacrificial, mothers will just kind of operate in this day in and day out of pouring out and not doing a whole lot to pour back into themselves, and then wondering why they're getting to these places of yelling at their kids or being so burnt out, so overstimulated, so exhausted. And the first thing that I would say in that situation is look at your calendar. Where is there space that you are building in time to invest back into you? And this is not just about taking having a spa day once a month. It's not even about like getting a vacation and being away from your kids. I think what's more important is recognizing like our kids are our kids and our kids are going to be around. And so how are you building different things into your life as these guardrails to be pouring into yourself in a very sustainable and consistent way, as opposed to looking forward to these times on the calendar where you can escape everything. We don't want to be escaping. We want to be having a sustainable life alongside our kids. So for me, a lot of this looks like having time by myself to be with Jesus. It also looks like exercise. It's also just diet. It looks like making time for the hobbies that you love. It looks like making time for relationships that are important to you, like your marriage and your friendships. And what we have to understand and wrap our heads around as moms is that these things are not just optional, they are foundational to the way that we parent. And so when it comes to modeling what you want to see in your home, you have to first lead yourself to a place of being able to show up and be a good model for your kids every day. The next way that you can be less overstimulated as a mom is actually huge, and it has been so huge for me, and it is to have less stuff. I'm talking about less of everything. Less of your own stuff, less of the kids' stuff, less stuff in your household in general. I found this so interesting, but apparently UCLA did a study and they found that mothers' cortisol levels were directly tied to the amount of stuff that they had in their homes. I don't know if you guys can relate to that, but I for sure can relate to that, where sometimes it's not even my kids that are overstimulating me, it is just the state of our house because of the fact that there are 5 people that live in it. And the 5 people that live in it thing, I can't change and I don't want to change. Those are the signs of life in our home. And so there's gonna be an element of mess and an element of clutter that comes with that. But as moms, we are responsible for managing and stewarding the stuff in our home. And that includes the amount of stuff in our home. And so when things are just absolutely beyond out of control at the end of the day and you look around, is there too much stuff in your home? Is there stuff that you can let go of, stuff that you can declutter to actually make your space a little bit more functional, a little bit more calming to be in, not just for you, but also for everybody else in their house? There's also been so much research around the fact that kids are only capable of actually playing with a certain number of toys at a time. And I'm pretty sure it's like 7 to 8 toys. And our intentions are good. We want our kids to be able to play. We want to be able to bless them and feel and experience the joy of seeing them be happy when we give them a gift. But we've just gotta give our kids less stuff. Like, they really don't need it. And it's only adding to their stress levels and your stress levels as a mom. Fewer toys also means fewer toys for you to clean up at the end of the day and less overwhelm in terms of mess in your house. And so one of the things that I do very regularly, if you are not new here, you know this, I keep a ongoing declutter bag in my closet, and throughout the week, whenever I see something that it's like, we just don't even need that anymore, I throw it into the declutter bag, and when it fills up, we take it to the donation center. And my kids have gotten very, very good at this. I do a regular decluttering process with them where we will go through their stuff and we will think about what we want to keep, what might be just garbage, trash that we hold on to. Hello, McDonald's Happy Meal toys. Start there if you don't know what else to start with. But we'll have the keep pile, the garbage pile, and then the donate pile. And my kids are just so good at this now. The other day I was eating lunch with my daughter and she's like, I think there's some toys that I'm ready to let go of. And I was like, okay, let's go and do that together. So this is just a process that is baked into the way that they operate now. And I think that's such a gift that we can give to kids too. But it's about realizing that more doesn't mean better and more doesn't mean happier, and that we can live with less and still be really content. The next way that you can manage your overstimulation is by getting outside every single day. When you are in doubt, go out. This is something that I just live by for so many reasons. For one thing, it's incredibly calming for me to be able to just step outside of my own house and the walls that contain us during the day and be like, okay, there's a whole world around us. There's so much that we can do. And so I love to be able to get outside, go barefoot, walk in the grass, feel the sun on your face, enjoy your coffee out there, read a book out there, pack a picnic lunch and get out with the kids. It is incredibly regulating for you to be able to take time outside. And whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed or just having a hard day as a mom, getting outside is one of the things that just turns it around for me. But this is also so important with our kids. Just anecdotally, I remember when my kids, sometime after the age of 2, I find that like when kids are newly 2, that the temper tantrums kind of are like the peak of what they will be. And then around 2.5, they start to taper off a little bit in my experience, and you can start to have more conversations about those things. But at 2, I just find that like like the temper tantrums can be very explosive, and the one thing that was like surefire for me to help to calm my kids down and reduce those temper tantrums was to spend as much of our day outside as possible. And listen, I live in Canada. I live in a place that is cold for like 6 months of the year. So this is really hard a lot of the time, and it can feel like a struggle sometimes, especially in the winter, to get outside. But even 10 minutes can make such a difference. And in the summertime especially, I will try and spend like minimum an hour, usually like 3 to 4 hours outside a day with my kids, just letting them run free, letting them regulate their nervous systems in nature. Green spaces help to lower cortisol. Vitamin D is so helpful for mood and for getting better sleep. And so when in doubt, go out. Next way that you can manage overstimulation is by enforcing a one source of volume at a time rule in your house. And this is not about managing the kids being able to only talk at one time per se, although we will get to that. This is just about the things that make volume in our house other than our actual family members. I'm talking any sort of screen, whether that's TV, that's tablet, that is your Google Home or your Alexa or your Yoto player or any other device that your kids listen to. It is the toys in the playroom, the fire trucks, the pianos, the drums, the music that's playing. Like, it can just get so overwhelming to have all of these different sounds happening at once, and our brains cannot process all of these different sounds happening at the same time in a healthy way. I literally feel sometimes like I'm gonna short circuit my brain when I can hear all of these different things that are happening. And so when I have something going in our house, maybe for that moment in that morning I've chosen it to be music, I'm not having other sounds go off in my house at the same time. We're not also going to pull out the Yoto player and play that at the same time that we're listening to music. We're not gonna be playing the guitar and playing the drums at the same time that another child is having the siren on a fire engine go off. It's just way too much. And so a couple things on this is that, first of all, I really try and limit any toys in our house that actually do make sound and are battery operated. There are some things like musical instruments that my kids love. I've got very musical kids and I want to encourage that. So I allow them to play their drum, play the tambourine, play the guitar. A lot of baby toys that exist kind of fall into this category. We've just gone way overboard in creating things that light up and have buttons and do all of these crazy things that our babies just really don't need. And the other thing that you don't need is all of that extra volume in your house. And so I limit it there by not allowing many of those toys to come into our home. And then the other way that I limit it is just by being like, we can't pull that out right now. Like, that one is a no. Let's come back to it in a little bit, but we're already listening to this or we're already doing this and it's just too much volume right now. And our kids, I've noticed, have gotten better at this too, and being able to name it for themselves, where now if one sibling is doing something and one of the other ones is just like not vibing with it and they're getting a little bit overstimulated themselves, they'll actually be like, it's a little bit too loud for me right now, and actually vocalizing that. And what a great way to just learn how to be a human around other people and vocalize what you need. So I limit the amount of things that come in, and we also limit the amount of volume that can happen at one time. Similar to this, we do also need to address the volume that can come not from the stuff in our house, but from the people that live in our house, and kids talking over each other, talking over you, pulling at your leg, calling out for mommy, all of these different things. And one of the things that I think is very important on this is creating a good conversation culture in your home and the way that you actually engage in this way as a family. We have had to, for a long time now, enforce with our kids that we are not doing the whole mommy, 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 or like trying to communicate a thought over top of someone else's thought, because it's just not a respectful way to operate. And so what we've taught our kids over and over again is that if you have something to say and you're feeling like people are not hearing you, you can say, excuse me, you can raise your hand, you can come and you can touch my leg, you can come and touch your arm and say, excuse me, mommy, to try and get your thought in. Because if there's a lot that's going on, what's not helpful is just trying to talk over each other all the time. There is an element of this as moms of still maintaining an awareness of our kids, and even though you're making dinner, not completely tuning out, throwing in headphones and not engaging with them. And so I'm still available to them, but what we don't want is all of those people just yelling over each other all the time. Between siblings, we've had to create this conversation culture of when your sibling is talking, we take time to listen to them. That's how we show them love. That's how we show them respect. Other people have good ideas too. And so we're not just trying to get our own voice heard all the time. We wait until our sibling has shared and then we take our turn to speak. If you are noticing that there are certain times of the day that this is out of control, like maybe even around the dinner table, there has been a time that my husband has brought out the conversation rock, which is not something that we do do every single night, but sometimes we pull this trick out if it's a little bit crazy. And basically the rule in the game with that is whoever has the rock at the dinner table is able to share about their day. And the only talking that everyone else at the table is allowed to do during that time is to ask that person more questions about their day. And I find that my kids just feel so seen and special when we do this. And so that is another little tip. But creating a conversation culture in your home where things are a conversation, it's not demands, it's not yelling over each other. That is a surefire way to lower your overstimulation levels as a mom. I think that there's also a huge piece in this of actually using sound for good in your home and sound to create an atmosphere. And this is something that I do a lot of the time with music. I find that in the early morning especially, and oftentimes in the afternoon as well, when we have more of like a quiet time throughout our house, is that leveraging music really does set the tone for everyone in our house during those times. There is just something about kids' music that just riles them up. It riles us up. And there's a lot of kids' music that doesn't fall into this category, but like Elmo Slide, it's a lot. And our kids love that song. They love the Kai Boomers and the floor is lava and all of these things, but there are literally alarm bells going off in this music, you guys. Like, this is not going to set the tone for our home. And so I think sometimes we'll put that on because it's like we want our kids to have a fun environment or an educational environment. And so we're like playing this different music for them because it's kids' music, but it's not helping our case at all. And so a lot of the time what you'll hear in our home is classical music. I've got different playlists that I'll often go to. I have a great classical morning playlist on Spotify that I'll put on when we wake up. Worship music is also playing throughout our house a lot of the time as well, just because it sets that atmosphere of not only being aware of the Holy Spirit and God throughout our day, but also just that calming atmosphere. And the other thing is that if I hear music that is just like increasing in intensity and I find that it's changing the vibe in the home as well, I'll just skip it and I'll change it. Sometimes if we are doing artwork around the table and I've got the Swan Lake Suite by Tchaikovsky playing, it gets a little bit too intense in that song. And I just feel like I am personally getting worked up and I'll just change it because the music that we play in our homes, the sounds that we have happening really do impact so much of how we feel. That's the whole nature behind soundtracks of movies, is that you can take this scene of someone walking through a hallway, and if you put scary, eerie music over top of that, immediately your natural response to that emotionally is going to be fear. And so when you're playing this music in your home, not necessarily thinking about the way that you are going to be emotionally responding to it, you're going to probably find that you're feeling a lot more overstimulated throughout the day, as opposed to carefully curating these different playlists or albums that really do create a sense of calm in your home for you and for your kids. Next way that you can lower overstimulation throughout the day is by moving your body. And I know prioritizing exercise with young kids can be such a hard thing to do because it's like, where the heck am I going to fit this into my schedule? But the more that I have found that I just involve my kids in this process with me and remove the barriers of it happening in the first place, the more that I actually end up doing it. Because the truth is that throughout the day, the frustration that we're feeling, the stress that we are feeling, even just in little moments of like an overwhelming diaper change to having one kid on the potty that needs our help and another kid asking for more food at the table, like all of that stress and that frustration, it doesn't just disappear at the end of the day. We feel it for a moment and then it dies down, but our body is also still holding on to a lot of that. And a great way to just get that out of your system is to move your body. It's to exercise, it's to go for walks, maybe it's going for runs, maybe you have time to go to the gym in this season, maybe you don't, but even just at home stretches, like anything that you can do to move your body, I think is so helpful for helping you work out some of those emotions that you're feeling throughout the day. There was another study done by a mental health institute looking at women specifically, and they found that even after just 20 minutes of walking, that their anxiety levels went down by over 40%. And so I wonder how many of us are like going to bed at night holding on to this frustration, this fear, this worry, this doubt, this fill in the blank of the emotion that we could be working out by actually moving our bodies. And again, it doesn't need to be complicated. Maybe it's going on a walk with your kids, being there. Maybe it is doing a quick workout on YouTube before you go to bed at night. Whatever you need to do to move your body, fit that into your calendar as often as you can. Another thing that is so helpful for me is taking time throughout the day, even just a couple of minutes, to sneak away to another room where it's quiet and just take a second to breathe. Sometimes this is just to go to the bathroom in peace before anyone else finds me there. Most of the time, this is me in the morning taking some time to go and get ready. I do that basically every single morning after breakfast while our kids are playing. And even though a lot of the time it's only 5 minutes before someone joins me, that 5 minutes of just quiet and space by myself is so helpful. And so I think like getting over the guilt that it's like, if my kids are awake, I need to have eyes on them 24/7. Like there are some circumstances and situations where maybe that is the case. And if you have a very young baby that's getting into stuff, like you're probably going to want to have a better system and setup other than just like walking away from them for long periods of time. So don't get me wrong here. But like if you are in a situation where your kids are more than capable of playing independently for a couple of minutes without your eyes on them, and your house is a safe environment for them to do that, it's okay for you to go to the bathroom alone. It's okay for you to take a couple of minutes to go and get dressed or to make yourself a coffee and just take some deep breaths. I really had to get over that, especially after having my second baby, because I found that with my first, I was so worked up about walking away from her. And I don't know why. It was just like this feeling like if I was to step away, maybe something would happen. And I think that like you can just take the pressure off of that a little bit. Like if you are setting up your home in a way that is safe for your kids, like it's good for them to get a little bit of space independently where they don't feel like you are hovering over them watching their play 24/7. So sneak away if you need to. And especially if you have a partner that is home, maybe throughout the day or when they come home, like I will oftentimes after dinner is done and Jared is kind of doing cleanup with the kids or cleanup with dinner, I will just be like, I'm gonna step away for a minute. Like I've been with the kids all day long and I'm just gonna go and like take 5. I'm gonna take time to just breathe. Maybe I read a couple of pages of a book. Maybe I just sit in silence. It doesn't even matter really what I'm doing in that moment. It's just like giving yourself that permission to sneak away because it is an okay thing to do. Next way that you can manage your overstimulation is just by letting go of the expectation that you need to entertain your kids 24/7. Like I think that expectation has kind of cropped up a little bit more with social media, and there's so much good that comes out of it because it's helpful and it's inspiring to get some ideas of what to do in your home. But when it is not helpful is when you are seeing someone else do something and it's like, okay, now I gotta do this, 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 and I gotta get this sensory bin and this morning time basket and this devotional and this thing and this, and it's like, oh my gosh, like you can pull inspiration, but remember that this is your home, that you are mom, that these are your kids, and that you can choose what's best for your family independent of what everyone else is doing, because not everything that works for another family and for other kids is gonna work for yours. And so your kids like do not need 1,000 different things throughout their day to keep them entertained. We have so lost the art of just letting kids be bored and letting them play without messing with it. The best thing that your kids can get from you is space to play and space to be able to do that without like you hovering over them all of the time. Sure, there are definitely times where it is really helpful and good to play with your kids, but I think that we have gone so far in that direction where it's like I need to be in it with them all the time because I feel guilty when I'm not playing with them, and we've actually just robbed our kids from the opportunity to get deep into play by themselves and get into their own world. And my kids are at ages now where it's helpful because they'll name it for me when I'm like getting too far into their stuff with play. Like I'll be like, what are you guys doing? Like, can I come in? And they're like, we're actually just playing like the two of us right now. I'm like, okay, fair enough. I understand. And I think it's just hard because sometimes there is that feeling of like, I want my kids to feel like I was engaged with them. My parents didn't play with me, so I want to play with mine. All of that is fine and good, but don't let that like keep you from hyper scheduling, hyper being involved, hyper like having your hand in everything that they do throughout the day, because it's good to let kids be bored. It's good to let them play independently, for their imaginations to run wild, for them to be creative. And for some kids, it will take some work, especially if that's not how you have been operating, for them to get to a place where they feel like they know how to do that. But as much as you can set them up for success, make the environment safe, and then just be like, okay, time for you to play independently. Or when they're asking for something to do, even just telling them like, go use your imagination, be creative. Here's what you could do this, or you could do something else, but like, I'm sure that you will find something to do. Like I've been using that a lot more with my kids, and they are actually going and doing it, which is kind of a wild thought, but that's just kids. They figure it out when you give them the space to let them. The last way that I manage overstimulation as a mom, for me personally, is the most important way that I do this. And it's not gonna be the way that everybody does it, but it's in my relationship with Jesus and anchoring myself there, not only through through spending time in his word, but also in prayer throughout the day, in journaling, and in taking the time to just be in his presence, because we know that patience and self-control and peace and joy are all fruits of the Spirit. And to get those fruits of the Spirit, you actually have to abide in Jesus. You have to spend time with him in order to look like him. And when it comes to like the overstimulation of the home and just the chaos of having young kids sometimes, it reminds me of the story in Mark 4 verses 35 to 41, which is a story in the Bible where Jesus is out on a boat and he's out there with his disciples. And basically there is this crazy storm that rolls in while they're in the boat. And what it says is that a furious squall came up. The waves broke over the boat so that it actually nearly swamped the boat. Like the water almost came in and brought the boat down. And Jesus, he's in the stern and he's sleeping on a cushion, it says. So this is like, imagine this environment. It's this crazy storm. There's huge waves and Jesus is just finding himself asleep in the middle of it all. And so the disciples go up to him and they wake him up and they say, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" And so then Jesus gets up, he rebukes the wind and he says to it, "Quiet, be still." And the wind dies down and all of a sudden it's completely calm on the water. And then he says to his disciples, "Why are you so afraid?" And then he asks them, "Do you still have no faith?" And basically they go on to say like, who is this person that even the wind and the waves obey him? But I think that what I pull from that is Jesus's ability to just remain so completely calm in a situation that anyone would feel overstimulated, freaked out, worried, anxious, fear. And I think what's so important for us to remember as moms when it comes to this story in our circumstances is that the reason that Jesus was able to be so calm throughout that storm is because he's in relationship with his Father. He knows who has the power. He knows who has the authority. He knows at the end of the day who is in control. And because of that, there is deep identity and there is deep peace, even in the chaos, because he lived in step with his Father. When you have a relationship with Jesus, you are able to maintain this sense of calm and of peace regardless of your circumstances. You can be plugged into crazy environment after crazy environment, and if you are anchored to the one who gave you life, to the one who gives you salvation and eternal life with him and freedom from sin, like you have access to this overflowing well of joy and of peace and of patience and of self-control. And although life will still be hard, like Jesus promises us that life is still going to be hard sometimes. There's going to be days that feel really challenging, days that feel really overstimulating. But I think in those moments, for me as a follower of Jesus, I'm able to call on him for the strength that I need in those moments. And he's never left me in that. Like I've never felt stranded or like God didn't show up or give me the peace that I needed or the words that I needed to calm my kids down from moment to moment. And so I would just be like not sharing the full picture at all of like the way that I'm able to parent and by the strength that I rely on if I left this part out of it. Because for me, so much, yes, all of these tools are so helpful. And I think that you can make huge strides in your home of creating calm and of creating peace with them. But for me personally, like the biggest thing that makes the difference in the day in and day out atmosphere of my home is the fact that presence of the living God is here and that I am close with Jesus. And so as much as you can, if you are a follower of Jesus, make space in your day to spend time with him. If you are not and you have questions about that, feel free to DM me on Instagram. I would love to chat more with you about what that looks like. But if faith is not really in the picture for you right now, like maybe that is just more time at the beginning of the day, trying to recenter through journaling or taking time to just breathe before your day starts. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope that it can be helpful for you and that the overstimulation in your home doesn't keep you feeling stuck or doesn't lead to this feeling of bitterness towards your season or discontentment towards your season. Little kids are only little for so long, and yes, they come with a lot of sound, they come with a lot of stuff, but one day, honestly, it's a refrain that I hear from people that are past the season constantly is that they wish they could just go back into their home and hear the life that existed in it during that season one more time, to see the toys scattered, to see the fingerprints on the window that I'm looking at right now, to feel the tugging at the leg of a little child calling out for mommy. Like those are things that are just so short-lived. And so as much as you can just enjoy that while it is hard, I hope that you can, and I hope that these tips can help you. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. As always, I am praying for you. I love you. And until my next video, I will see you soon. Bye.